Welcome back to the Explainer. Today we're diving into something absolutely fascinating, the anatomy of a meticulously quantified life. We're breaking down a highly detailed weekend review log from an author who tracks, well, pretty much every aspect of their daily existence. We're going to explore how they balance the physical requirements of health and wellness with the intellectual demands of creative hobbies, programming, and nature. It's a brilliant look at how data-driven storytelling can actually help us lead much more intentional lives. Okay, let's dive into our roadmap for today. We'll start with 1, the weekly review system. Then we'll move to 2, tracking health and wellness. And 3, diet, fasting, and mindfulness. Finally, we'll explore the expansion of the mind with 4, coding in the AI era, and ground ourselves with 5, nature, hobbies, and home. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the weekly review system, setting the foundation. So why do we even track these daily metrics in the first place? Well, as the author notes, a proactive focus on health and wellness provides the essential foundation you need to achieve all of your personal and professional goals. So the crucial point here is that everything else we're going to discuss today, the late night coding, the complex gardening projects, the deep reading, literally none of it is possible without this physical baseline. Health isn't just some separate category. It is the absolute foundation that makes everything else achievable. Moving right along to Section 2, tracking health and wellness. Let's look at the metrics. Now for sleep, the author clocked an average of 7.1 hours. Mathematically, sure, that hits their target threshold. But here is where tracking becomes a tool for true self-awareness, rather than just a numbers game. Because despite hitting that 7.1-hour mark, the author noted feeling incredibly tired, even when technically well-rested. Why? Well, they overly indulged in weekend coding projects, which completely shifted their sleep schedule, resulting in fragmented recovery sleep. Plus, continuous late evening rains kept them stuck indoors. It's a great reminder, right? The quality and consistency of your sleep matter just as much as the quantity. As for movement, the author tracked exactly 4,018 steps for the week. This is actually a noticeable drop compared to their previous weeks, but back-to-back metrics reveal that this dip was entirely circumstantial. Those same continuous evening rains that disrupted their sleep schedule, they completely halted their usual gardening chores and outdoor errands. But here's the really fascinating twist. While you might think fewer steps is a total negative, the author observed that their relapsed back and knee pain actually subdued significantly during this low-step week. The lack of intense physical activity, combined with rest, regular massaging, and heat pad treatments, allowed those previous injuries to heal. It's like a giant puzzle. It just goes to show the beautifully complex relationship between our daily metrics. Sometimes an apparent failure in one metric, like missing a step goal, is exactly what the body needs to achieve success in another area, like recovery. So what do we actually do with this data? Well, we create actionable takeaways. Moving forward, the author is continuing their regimen of pumpkin seeds and supplements. They plan to adjust their physical activities specifically to fix that disrupted circadian rhythm. They've also found some new strength training equipment they want to evaluate to help with joint recovery. And my absolute favorite pivot, since the rain is ruining their outdoor workouts, they're planning to try indoor swimming. Tracking leads directly to practical, real-time life adjustments. That brings us to Section 3, diet, fasting, and mindfulness, focusing on internal fuel and clarity. To maintain this whole system, the author sticks to a really strict balanced diet ratio. 1 part vegetables, 1 part fish, and 1 part carbs. They also complement this heavily with a 16-8 intermittent fasting routine, so that's 16 hours of fasting and an 8-hour eating window. Interestingly, their weight dropped slightly this week to 69.79 kilograms, but they astutely diagnosed this as simply a fluctuation in water weight, completely caused by that shifted sleep schedule impacting their meal times. When we look at the daily grind, it's all about efficiency and grounding. Cooking involves fast, effective meals like oatmeals, soft-boiled eggs, and miso noodle soup with vegetables. But what I absolutely love here is the integration of mindfulness. The author doesn't just sit in a dark room to meditate. They utilize 1, 2, and 3-minute sitting steps and actively practice walking meditation and mental noting right in the middle of their daily chores, like raking leaves in the garden. It is a highly practical, everyday approach to staying stoic and centered. All right, shifting gears to Section 4, coding in the AI era, expanding the mind. Now, what's really interesting about this next part is the author's fascinating philosophical observation about the state of programming today. They note that the emergence of AI and large language models has fundamentally shifted the social aspect of coding. They argue that manual, laborious tasks, like writing standard API libraries, should absolutely be delegated to AI agents. In fact, they express real frustration that official library maintainers aren't leveraging AI for SDK generation across different programming languages. It's a pragmatic embrace of AI to clear away the busy work so we can focus on much higher level problem solving. And clearing out that busy work leads to something we can all relate to: finding the flow state. The author admits to staying up until the early morning on a weekend, completely in the zone, prototyping a complex daemon project in Golang and Python to solve a long-term itch. They expose themselves to entirely new architectural insights during this deep work session. Sure, it completely wrecked their sleep schedule, which we saw in the health data earlier, but man, it provided immense personal satisfaction and intellectual growth. Finally, we hit section 5, nature, hobbies, and home, focusing on offline accomplishment. There is just a massive variety of activities going on here. For fishkeeping, they're breeding Crebensis cichlids and humorously using betta fish as janitors for the aquatic plants in their outdoor ponds. In gardening, they're focused on seed germination and making small, incremental changes to declutter their space. And in writing, they're actually leveraging AI custom tools to streamline their journaling process, literally turning daily observations into generated videos. The through line here is that small, daily, incremental changes, whether that's observing a fish, decluttering one single item a day, or planting a seed, add profound satisfaction and purpose to the daily routine. And just like with their health metrics, the author ends their week with a clear to-do list for their hobbies. They plan to resume their plant rack project, finally install those pending curtains, finish up some grout work on the balcony, upgrade the aquariums with new LED lights and sponge filters, and hunt for an external macro lens for their phones so they can get back to their photo walks. Constant, measurable, incremental progress is the ultimate goal of this entire week in review system. Which brings us to our final thought. We've seen how tracking sleep, steps, diet, and even the smallest hobby tasks can paint a completely holistic picture of a life, allowing for constant, gentle course corrections. So, I leave you with this. How could tracking your own incremental changes improve your daily routine? What small piece of data could you start logging today that might completely revolutionize your work-life balance tomorrow? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I hope this inspires you to take a much closer look at your own weekly metrics.